Hi, good morning, everyone. So, in a country that is obsessed with gold, iron ore, and until recently, lithium, there's actually another story quietly unfolding. It's actually about a critical metal that you don't really hear much about, and it underpins the tech that powers our world. Gallium. A true silent achiever, gallium is actually essential for semiconductors, defense systems, and the clean energy transition. And right at the forefront of this opportunity is Nimy Resources, with ASX ticker code NIM. Nelly India Mike, led by Luke Hampson, who's here today again to share with us why this metal and his company deserve your attention. Hi, Luke. How are you again?
Good, thanks, G. It's good to be back.
I know. I was actually looking through some of the notes. I've got some important questions to ask you. Um, well, look, for those who weren't here for the first interview, could you give us a quick overview of Nimy Resources and what the Mons project is about?
No problem. So, Nimy Resources, I'm the founder of the company. I held the ground or a portion of the ground from 2015, and that's expanded out, and we listed late 2021. We now have over 3,000 square kilometres of Greenstone Belt, previously unidentified. So we expect that to be actually made official in the coming months, that it is a new Greenstone Belt. So it measures, I think, around 80 to 90 kilometres by about 30 kilometres across. For context, for those that are familiar with Kalgoorlie and Kambalda, it's pretty much the distance between those two. So it's a large land holding. And, we've spent the first couple of years since being listed exploring for a few different commodities, and we've been successful. Gallium is obviously one and copper is the other, which is a real emerging story. In fact, the gallium is more than likely related to copper-zinc. So, it's been a hectic 3 years given the amount of ground that we are going after, and we've done a lot of on-the-ground work. We've done a lot of geophysics, and we've also done a lot of interpretation on that Greenstone Belt to really work out what we're dealing with.
Fantastic. And look, you've described Nimy as a first mover in defining a new greenstone belt. I mean, why is the Mons Belt in WA such an exciting discovery for all of us?
Well, Greenstone Belt discoveries, and especially recognition of them. I was talking to Christian, who's one of our directors, the other day, and he was saying it's at least 20 years since one was identified and officially registered, if you like, or mapped. So it is quite a big thing. And, it is strange. We're only 370 kilometres northeast of Perth. So it's about a 4-hour drive, just over 4 hours to get there. And bitumen roads for the most part. The last bit of it is, you're on gravel, and then you're through the state barrier fence and into vacant Crown land, which is where we sit. So, it is really unusual that, Greenstone Belt has taken this long to be identified. Previous explorers that have held some of the ground have done, cursory exploration or struggled to get out there because access, once you get there, was difficult. But we've opened it up and done the work, and it looks like we have identified a new Greenstone Belt. So
Exciting.
quite an achievement.
And look, I guess for us, gallium has become, a big focus for Nimy. What makes the Block 3 discovery so significant?
Well, it's significant for timing more than anything. When we first started to explore that area, what we call Block 3 now, which is a magnetic anomaly that is approximately 3 kilometres east-west by about 1.5 kilometres north-south, if you like. So when we first went there, it was the result of a VTEM survey, and we located some anomalies there, which we followed up with fixed loop, got some conductive plates, drilled them, and hit massive sulfides. The massive sulfides were carrying low levels of copper, gold, and silver, which may be significant a little bit later on. We drilled a couple of holes out to the east where the Block 3 gallium is, and it came up with really high amounts of gallium. And so we scrambled to find out what gallium was. That was the big thing. And then we realized that these numbers were, exceptionally high. I think there was one there was 495, 1 metre at 495 grams per tonne in that initial lot, 72 metres at 117. there was only 2 holes that we drilled there, and both of them had, one had 50 metres at above 100 grams per tonne, the other one had 72 at over 100. So we realised that there was something going on in terms of that gallium enrichment. And then we started to look at it, and I think it was August 23, China, who were producing 98% of the gallium consumed in the world, put a ban on, and then followed it up, I think, about 12 months later. So effectively, the supply of gallium into Europe and the US and that was halted. So, and it's reflected in the price. I think probably 5 or 6 years ago, it was a couple $100, now out to over $1,100, I think, and that's retail. So we started to take a bit more notice of it in terms of what could this be, and is this an opportunity? And then we had a look a bit deeper into what were the uses, and the semiconductor thing's the obvious one, the military applications. And it actually, as it's expanded out, it's gone, and it looks like it's going to go into a whole heap of applications, providing people can find enough of it. That's the challenge. High-tech applications, everyday use. So, it's very significant. We've just completed some drilling, which we'll get to in a minute, going into a maiden JORC resource. But we also believe that it is related to copper-zinc mineralisation, and that there is the opportunity to discover a lot more outside of the Block 3 discovery within the whole Mons holding of 3,004 square kilometres.
Luke, I want to segue very quickly so that the audience can truly understand the scarcity of this metal. Is that so? Yeah. In fact, China holds 98% of the supply and production at the moment, and the second highest is actually Russia. So they hold 1%. So if you combine them both, given the geopolitical sensitivity that the world is going through, it'd be right to say 99% of the supply and production is actually held in countries that are probably not as Western friendly at the moment. And therefore it's so crucial for us to actually have this resource here.
Yeah. And all the noises coming out of Europe and the US back that up. It really, let's call them Western economies, if you want to, being caught napping a little bit on this. Certainly, 98, 99%.
It's 99% if you think about it. Yeah.
So, the noises that we're hearing out of Europe is that it is virtually impossible to get hold of. Gallium itself. We're dealing more, we are talking to a few groups in Europe, but we're dealing more directly into the US. And we did sign that agreement with M2i Global to access the US market. But there's a lot of work to be done there, and there's a lot of momentum being created in the US.
Sure.
And that goes all the way from, being able to process, manufacture wafers into semiconductors. All of that is virtually missing at the moment. So there's a big effort on the ground to locate infrastructure or plant that, can begin that process. So following that, it's who can provide the throughput of the material itself, So we're putting ourselves at the forefront of that.
Got it. Look, now let's talk about the drilling results and the confidence to scale and the grade potential. Can you elaborate a little bit more about that for us?
Sure. Yeah. So in January 2025, we produced an exploration target based on, I think, 5 drill holes and some soils. Now, we then, as a result of that exploration target, designed a infill and step out, so outside of the original area, drilling program to then feed into a maiden inferred JORC resource. Which is really important for the market to actually understand what it is you've got and have some confidence in its future. So we've just completed that. We've just put the results out now, including the original 5 holes of, I think we're looking at, 25 holes in this round, of which 18 intersected high grade, it's plus 100 grams per tonne intervals of gallium.
Mm-hmm.
The original 5, we've got 23 holes there that have done it. So we're, over the moon, if you like, with the result that we've got. That's what you hope for. And the other important bit of that is that, some of the high grade is at the very extent of those drill patterns. So it's open. So the opportunity to increase that footprint is there. From here, we have the JORC resource being put together. We're also being assisted by CSIRO and Curtin University, particularly Curtin around the metallurgy. So we're doing a bit of testing there to make sure that we can extract it, enough of it for it to be economic. The drilling program was, we couldn't be happier with that. We think we're going to come up with a really, really good inferred JORC resource, both from a volume and grade point of view. And then we also think we'll come up with a new exploration target outside of that will significantly increase it.
Excellent. And now, look, I want to talk about, you've recently signed a collaboration agreement with M2i Global in the US.
Yep.
I mean, what does this partnership really mean for your strategy? And when we touched about the significance of the US demand, so I'd really love to elaborate a bit more on it.
Yeah, well, the things that I described earlier around what the US looks like in terms of, gallium processing, manufacture, product use, that's what M2i Global have positioned themselves to do, is to, ensure supply of critical metals into the US. So it's an important and aligned partnership. When you look at, it's in its infancy, but there's a lot of momentum and there's a lot of, understanding of just how critical this is. So it's important for us to, access that US market. Yes. Now, the M2i Global themselves have got a really strong, leadership group that has a military background. That's the best way of saying it. And they seem to be increasing that expertise, pretty rapidly. So, since we signed that agreement, my confidence around M2i Global's capability has certainly increased with the caliber of people that they're bringing on. And I know that, on the ground there, they are actively looking, to actually get some capability in the US. Now, that, given that they've got the military background and the connections there, I think a lot of it's tied into, Department of Energy, Department of Defence requirements. I think it was an important agreement to show that there is some confidence in what we're doing from the market. Got it. And also to connect us to what looks like the most aggressive market in terms of securing gallium supply. Yeah, so an important agreement. I think it holds us in good stead.
Thank you. And you touched on earlier about your collaboration with CSIRO and Curtin University in Perth, helping you progress the metallurgical and technical work. Can you elaborate on that one as well?
Yeah, well, they've both been really good, really good collaborative partners, and really important as we move towards the, putting together this JORC resource. So CSIRO early on were able to identify where the gallium was hosted, if you like, in the sample. And, chloride hosted in the fresh rock was pretty important. So it's a chlorite schist. So chlorite and talc is where, the fresh rock, if you like, holds the high-grade gallium.
Got it.
So that is a really important step, which then dovetailed into Curtin's work, because then we've supplied Curtin with samples, and they are conducting the metallurgical testing and the processing and all that sort of stuff. It was really important as part of the JORC resource to be able to understand how much of it you can get out, what's the process, what's likely to cost, all those components that go into it to say, okay, you can get through this hurdle, if you like, and this is worth going on with. So, from a NIMI point of view, those partnerships have been really important, and they are becoming more and more important, because we are breaking new ground here. There's not, most of the gallium in the world is supplied through as a byproduct from, zinc or bauxite, different sort of process. Our host rock is different. So, the processing, we are breaking new ground, so to speak, with the processing techniques that Curtin are putting together for us.
But it sounds like whilst this is new ground and in a way a precedent, you've got a team that you're actually collaborating with to assist you through the process. That's really crucial, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It does come down to some pretty impressive people within CSIRO and Curtin.
Yeah.
No doubt. They're a lot smarter than me, I can tell you that much. But so it's it is. I suppose we're giving ourselves the best possible chance here of understanding what it is we've got, whether it's going to be commercial, and what the scope of it is in terms of how much volume and grade. So all of those, really important things to understand that your investment's worthwhile. We've got the best people backing it.
Excellent, thanks. Now, you've also just outlined emerging copper prospectivity at the Sneaky Squirrel Gossan discovery. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
That's all right.
Can you explain what makes this find so exciting and how it fits into the bigger picture for the Mons Greenstone Belt? Sneaky Squirrel Gossan, okay?
For the record, I didn't name it. Okay, so but it's a really important find. We only made the find, I think, in roughly June, July or something, and the Sneaky Squirrel fits into a couple of other things, and I think is related to a few other things that we've got there. And previously, we've announced results at the Masson discovery, copper nickel in massive sulfide and PGEs, which is an exciting discovery in itself, and we'll have a bit of news out on that. But that looks really healthy. But if we go back to Sneaky Squirrel, originally there was some air core drilling done there 20 years ago, which we had a look at. And what we found was that the first, and it's only 40 meters, but in 4 drill holes, the copper-zinc was more anomalous than anywhere we've seen on the whole property. So we decided to go out and actually have a look. Fergus Jockle, our geologist, went out and had a look there, and then found that not far from where these drill holes were, that we've got outcropping gossan. So he's taken, I think, 34 samples initially. And that's extended out even further now. So we've established a north-south outcropping of about 302 meters, and it's still open. We've still got work to do either end of it. But the rock chips came back with high zinc, I think up to 0.45%, copper up to 0.1%. We've got a gold sample there is at 0.8 grams per tonne, and molybdenum, bismuth, and lead are all anomalous. So, that got us having a bit of a think about what it is we're dealing with here. We also followed that up and said, right, let's drill a couple of test holes. So we've drilled 4 test holes, and all 4 of them have run into copper-zinc sulfide mineralization. And it all relates in terms of beneath the gossan and dipping at the same direction the gossan is at the surface. So it looks like it's fairly intact. But the interesting bit for us, I suppose, was then we had a look at what's around us. What can we compare this to? Golden Grove, which is a world famous VMS deposit, copper zinc, up at it's about 200 kilometres northwest of us. And so we had a look at the our gossans versus their discovery gossans, and the geochemistry is very, very similar. Then we looked at, obviously that's a mine, so we were able to get a fair bit of information on, the first 200 metres, which is what we drilled in those 4 holes, and we're seeing pretty much the same thing. There was also, what was really important was that the magnetics at Sneaky Squirrel are the highest magnetics on the whole 3,004 square kilometres.
Yep.
Now, why that's important is that the copper massive sulfides at Gossan Hill are contained within a magnetite, high mag magnetite anomaly. So having that high mag there gives us a bit of a head start on where we should be looking for copper massive sulfides. So we will now do a magnetic survey, whether it's drone or fixed wing, over that area and a long strike, it's about 3 kilometres of strike, and try and pick out where the high mag areas are, because they'll become fairly obvious targets to go after copper.
Sure.
It is behaving very much like Gossan Hill. So it's a really exciting find for us. And the fact that we actually got 0.8 grams per tonne gold, it's in a quartz vein about 40 odd metres off the Gossan, was a bit of a highlight too, because, you know, most people have thought that area should have gold, you know, the Mons project should have gold. And this is the first real solid indication that there may be gold there. But copper's the prize. And that, again, relates to the Masson discovery, which, you know, is still going pretty well. And then we've got Vera's Gossan, similar type geochemistry, which is, you know, north of Sneaky Squirrel, and it is directly west of Masson. And that had highly anomalous Gossan samples as well. We've done some fixed loop over that, and we've picked up some pretty exciting anomalies under it. So the copper story is really building. And we go back to the gallium, you know, we were in that block 3 area because we're looking for copper-zinc. And we have got copper-zinc sulfides in some of those holes where the gallium is. So we think it's related. So we're looking at a gallium copper explorer at this point in time.
Did you ever think this would be how Nimy would play out?
No, because when we started, right, we were in the south, and the south was we've got big, thick komatiite, komatiites there hosting nickel, and, you know, we had some drill holes when we first started there, you know, 500 meters of nickel, if you like, low grade, and we would still be looking for the sulfide traps, if you like, there. Nickel went the other way, and then we moved ourselves up into the north. So we expected more of the same up in the north, to be honest, potentially with some gold in that. But when we did the VTEM survey, which was 2,417 line kilometres, and it popped up with around 240 anomalies, we've drilled 2 of those, and we've hit massive sulfides in both of them. Right. So, you know, the extent of what could be up there is, you know, it's huge, really. No, I didn't think copper zinc. I didn't think magmatic copper nickel either, but it's there. And I certainly didn't think gallium, right? But I suppose it's a greenstone belt. Possibilities are endless. You know, we've had at block 3 west, we've also had an interval there at 0.58% rare earths. So, you know, that may be interesting in the context of how we build out the resource at block 3. And we'd published that, I think, probably a year and a half ago. So that's, look, it's a, you know, it's a 90, was it 80 or 90 by 30 kilometre greenstone belt. It could have anything, you know.
It could.
But yeah, it has been, you know, certainly the northern part of it has been a real bonus.
Got it. Well, look, with the few minutes we have left, I do have 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
Look, beyond gallium and copper, I think you've touched on it already, but maybe just to summarise, what is the potential do you see across the Mons Belt for nickel, zinc, PGEs and gold? Yeah,
well, in that order, definitely the south. You know, if nickel has its day again, we've got big, thick komatiite flows that are more than likely going to have some sort of accumulation of nickel sulfides. And nickel will have its day again. It's just not today. Lithium's a possibility because we have granite on either side. So there's that, what they call the Goldilocks zone on the contact. And we have intersected pegmatites there that, you know, by the, the potassium rubidium ratios you'd call fractionated, so fertile. So that's a possibility. Again, lithium, something for down the track. Rare earth is definitely there. We've had some big hints around the rare earth, including the one at block 3 west with the 0.58% there. So rare earth is definitely on the table at some point. Gold is the elusive one. You know, most people look at the ground and go, you've got to have gold there. But, you know, we've only had low levels until, of course, this rock chip sample at Sneaky Squirrel, which, given that it's in a, you know, in a quartz vein, exposed at surface, that gives us a little bit of hope that there's gold there. You know, again, we seem to have what would be some sort of extension of the Forrestania belt in the south. We've got the east-west flexure, which is mainly mafic rock through the middle, where block 3 is. And then we're getting up into the north, which looks like it's some sort of orthomagmatic, or just magmatic, sorry, nickel copper.
Sure.
Very different to what's going on in the south with the komatiites. And now we're getting VMS. And VMS tends to pop up in, multiple occurrences. So there's everything going on there. Our focus is definitely going to be, the gallium and the copper.
The gallium and the copper story belongs to Nimy.
That's right. Yeah. And in 20 years' time, when I'm retired, somebody else can drill for lithium and nickel.
I think focus is the key, Luke, from what I can sense, speaking with so many CEOs. The critical component is not to chase the resource that is in vogue, but rather to stay true to what you envisioned this to be.
Yeah. Well, you've got to listen to what the ground's telling you as well, and we've got two really capable in-house geologists here. And they've spent a lot of time pulling this apart from a structural and geological and geochronology. Oh, that's a hard word, isn't it? The geochronology. They're pulling that apart, every day. So, what it's telling us is that we're fertile for copper in a couple of different settings. VMS, I think, is going to be the main part of it, given Sneaky Squirrel, Vera's Gossan, and there's something about Masson, we keep hitting massive sulfide mineralisation. The copper's getting better as we go deeper. We're from 90 to 288 metres in a true depth sense, if you like. We're getting the copper's kicking in more and more as we get deeper, and the nickel's dropping out. So there's something happening there. The possibilities are endless, but we are focused on bringing this gallium to where it needs to be, to meet, I think, a market that is going to rush at it at some point when people start to realise that, the supply demand, there is no supply. The demand's increasing and there is no supply. So,
Absolutely. Look, the final question I have for you, Luke, is just in summary, briefly, what are the key milestones that investors and members and subscribers should really watch out for in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, okay. So we'll start off with gallium.
Yep, sure.
We'll have the JORC inferred resource out. I think we're looking at towards the end of September, I think. That's an absolute milestone, because then, you've got some real hard data that's been organised in a way that people can understand, and they can see what the opportunity looks like. Great. On the back of that, there'll be an exploration target which extends it out so that people can see what the upside potential is. I think by that time too, we're going to have another couple of gallium targets based on the soils that we're doing. So that's a big milestone there. And then I think, obviously we're having a lot of discussions with people in the US and Europe and all that. And I would expect, given how we're positioning ourselves, and I think we will, from a standalone, at this point standalone, there might be other things in it, but at this point, a standalone gallium inferred resource, that puts us in a really good position to access non-dilutive funding.
Sure.
Through interested parties, offtake agreements, whatever it might be. And I think that will come. I think we're positioning ourselves really well for that. So I think there's a fair bit of news on the gallium in terms of we've done the work now to put it in perspective as to what it really is, and how it relates to the market. And I think we'll see a fair bit of exciting news on how we connect to that market. The copper, I would say, we've got magnetic surveys slotted in for Masson, block 3, where the gallium is. We're looking for the copper-zinc under there. It's there somewhere. And then we've got also at Sneaky Squirrel. So there's going to be, in terms of copper, I'm pretty confident that Masson continues. We need it to flatten out a bit, because at the moment it's subvertical. So we need to find where it's actually, accumulating in a thicker style, if you like.
Sure.
And Sneaky Squirrel, I'm pretty confident, given the magnetics that are already there and how it's profiling up from the drilling and from the Gossans are obviously VMS Gossans at this point. I think we're probably in a good position there as well.
Fantastic.
So a fair bit of news, and at different levels of the cycle. So we're pretty optimistic. It's been certainly a hard slog over the last 6 months. We've done a lot of work, but we've put ourselves at the forefront. And when you said before, you don't chase things, we've knuckled down, I think, to let's stay the course on the gallium because it's got something to it, and keep going with the copper because copper's also got a fairly bright outlook over time.
Well, I think in summary, I mean, I spoke to you a few months ago, and your story has remained the same, and you've really stayed true to, those particular core objectives. So in summary, what I'll do here, Luke, is I'll ask any of the members, investors and viewers if they have any questions, please forward them through to us, info@eastcoastresearch.com.au or info@sharesinvalue.com.au, and we'll forward them through to you and you can handle them with your team.
No problem.
And I'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah, the geologists in particular love the questions.
Well, you
makes their day.
Yeah, but you really respect a geologist as well, and that's absolutely critical. And didn't you come from a geology background as well?
No. I'm more from my previous positions were at Westrac and Caterpillar dealer, and then I was at Rio Tinto. And Rio Tinto looked after their the asset management function, if you like, across all of the sites, the iron ore sites in Western Australia. So no, this is my first. I decided back in about 2014 that I needed to understand this better, and then I went out and got the ground. There's no better way to learn than being on the ground. So the deficiencies that I have, I've sort of surrounded myself with pretty good people.
Thank you, Luke.
And that makes a big difference,